Lord spake thus to me with a strong hand, and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people. Say ye not a confederacy to all them to whom this people shall say, a confederacy, neither fear ye their fear, nor be afraid. Sanctify the Lord of hosts himself, and let him be your fear, let him be your dread, and he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling, for a rock of offense.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. Continuing today in the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, round about verse 14, but we're going to read it from just a couple verses earlier than that, because I just wanted to take in also these other king verses, since we're going to be taking in a lot of Proverbs about kings today. So after one just brief moment here. Thank you. Let's read. Proverbs 6, verse 10. A divine sentence is in the lips of the king. His mouth transgresseth not in judgment. A just weight and balance are the Lord's. All the weights of the bag are his work. It is an abomination to kings to commit wickedness, for the throne is established by righteousness. Righteous lips are the delight of kings, and they love him that speaketh right. The wrath of a king is as messengers of death, but a wise man will pacify it. In the light of the king's countenance is life, and his favor is as a cloud of the latter rain. Probably could have said that a little more empathetically. In the light of the king's countenance is life, and his favor is as a cloud of the latter rain. How much better is it to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding rather to be chosen than silver? The highway of the upright is to depart from evil. He that keepeth his way preserveth his soul. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Better is it to be of a humble spirit with the lowly, than to divide the spoil with the proud. He that handleth a matter wisely shall find good, and whoso trusteth in the Lord, happy is he. The wise in heart shall be called prudent, and the sweetness of the lips increaseth learning. Understanding is a wellspring of life unto him that hath it, but the instruction of fools is folly. The heart of the wise teacheth his mouth, and addeth learning to his lips. Pleasant words are as an honeycomb, sweet to the soul, and health to the bones. There is a way that seemeth right unto man. There is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. He that laboureth, laboureth for himself, for his mouth craveth it of him. An ungodly man diggeth up evil, and in his lips there is as a burning fire. A froward man soweth strife, and a whisperer separateth chief friends. A violent man enticeth his neighbor, and leadeth him into the way that is not good. He shutteth his eyes to devise froward things. Moving his lips he bringeth evil to pass. The hoary head is a crown of glory, if it be found in the way of righteousness. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. The lot is cast into the lap, but the whole disposing thereof is of the Lord. God is over all. Man devises his steps. Man orders it. Man has his thoughts. I think, therefore I am. But God makes the answer. The answer of the tongue, that's from the Lord. You know, that's weird. It doesn't mean everyone speaks. No, it means that these things are true. Like when it says, he shut it, the wicked move their lips, they bring evil to pass. That's true. The instruction of the fools is folly, That is true. If your heart devises foolishness, as the Lord has said, out of your lips shall come forth folly. And that's what you think about your way, and the Lord will direct your steps, You can take the path of fools, and, you may think it's going to lead to glory, but no, sir. The Lord will not have such. So there's a lot here about kings. And I wanted to look back just slightly at what we'd already talked about from where we read. The divine sentence is in the lips of the king and all that. The weight of the bags are his work. God claims dominion over these things, over what it means. That's why Christ is King of Kings, because he's the ultimate kind of king. And represents the best of what mankind ought to aspire to be. Judgment is in his lips, right? His mouth, he does not transgress in judgment. Because a king showing poor judgment, that's not someone who should be a king. All men transgress in judgment, though. So it's an ideal. But even so, it is an abomination to kings to commit wickedness, or so it should be. He's listing the qualifications in a sort of way. And this is what the king ought to be. That's why, it's not about divine right. It's about divine responsibility. The king has fearful powers. The wrath of the king is as messengers of death. The state has the monopoly on the power to use force. I mean, as far as a near monopoly, like as far as you have the right to defend yourself, like if someone comes to your home and starts pointing a gun at you and starts taking shots at you, even in a state where you have to flee or whatever, if you were then cornered and you were also yourself armed and had no way of escape, because I do think it is wiser to try to escape, especially if that's the safest thing you can do. I mean, you have to weigh that in your situation. I believe in my first defense is as the word of God, because no one can, no matter how well defended someone is, there's always, if there's a dedicated, powerful, it's like that you're all vulnerable, except if the Lord would protect you. Just like Satan himself could not touch Job, And I always take that with a grain of salt, because, the Lord has to have a very good reason. He has many servants. Why would he step out of the realm of normality to protect me or you or whatever, But anyways, the state has this power, and when it's mad, it can be, it's wise to understand this. They bear not the sword in vain, is what Paul said. He beareth not the sword in vain. A wise man will pacify it, As much as is possible, you seek to live peaceably with all men. And of course, there's always a wisdom that understands that, wait a second, okay, yes, fear the king. I fear the king. I fear the power of the state. I respect law enforcement. That's how I generally talk my way out of tickets, by the respectful way. I'm older, I guess, and I have kids, and I have a very honest way of talking about the situation that makes them, I guess, I don't go plowing around fast all the time. Sometimes you get going a little too fast, you don't even realize it's happening. And that's usually what the case is with me, and I just tell that honestly. And, it usually ends up in me getting not very seriously charged. But if I've not, I haven't got charged with anything in a long, long time. Certainly, whatever. Never been arrested. But that's the thing, is like you gotta understand. That's the thing with sin. There are sins in this world. There are some sins which the world is like, you go ahead and do that. You do you. And I think that it's good that men have a lot of liberty, that I don't think we should be policing each other's sins. That's part of what I take away from the lesson of Jesus and the woman who was caught in the act of adultery, which seems kind of weird because they were supposed to both of them be stoned with stones, but there was just a woman involved, which seems that they had brought her according to their traditional interpretation, which probably meant the guy goes free or something. I don't know. That seems strange because her husband would probably not want to just let I can understand. I don't know. It depends on how you go. It's like, it depends on who's involved, I guess, right? How wrathful a man. I mean, if a man's friend, for example, I know people whose friends have betrayed them and have, I don't know if there was even, I hesitate to call it adultery because they had, with their partners, they had found other partners. There was cross fornication involved, right? I don't know how to characterize it because unfaithfulness among semi-faithful partners, among partners who had some sort of non-permanent commitment to each other, yet somehow it gives offense, right? It's your girlfriend, so even though it's not a permanent commitment, you haven't committed for life. If if at any moment that gets kind of pulled out from under you, you feel some sort of loss, like as if it was a commitment. Because I don't know, temporary commitments are kind of not commitments, aren't they? It's like, I mean, I guess it's a commitment, but it's a lesser form, right? And you want to, it's good to be committed to things long term, especially if they're good things. I don't want to commit myself to the Lord temporary, short term, right? I mean, to the most important things we gotta be committed to. All right, pacify. I want to look this up in Hebrew here. Well, let's look at the internet. Actually, not the internet. We're just gonna look at. Oh, that's my thing there. Great, excellent connection. Isn't that good to know? Verse, Wrath the King mentions does male pacify, to appease. I wonder how else this is used, huh? Kafar, to cover over, pacify, or make propitiation according to. No, that's a weird, because that must be like the New Strong's Concordance as re-edited by whatever. Because that's, of course, his actual original definition always is way down here, which is if you were used to the Strong's Concordance, this is Strong's exhaustive concordance. Okay, maybe, I see. Strong's Concordance is like a brand name, I think, because that reminds me of the Strong's Dictionary or something. I don't know, which is not a bad tool, but I'm used to seeing this old version, and I do like to go down here. And the Brown Driver Biggs is really your excellent tool if you want to get really deep, and sometimes we look at that, but you can see there's actually a lot here. It's used in many different ways. But cover over, figuratively, to expiate, to condone, or placate. But the idea is to cover up, not necessarily nefariously cover up the matter, but in the sense, you got to cover the problem. The problem, it's like, I got it covered. Like we use that sort of idiom in our speech, where, we use the idea of, that's a definite idea of an idiom, because the idea of covering something, cover that story, cover this, cover that. It has a wide variety of idiomatic uses in our language, even. I even mean to disannul or forgive. I think we may get that even from our ideas, the idea of covering sin and such. Covering sin also, not just meaning the idea of like I said, like to, there isn't, I suppose, was there a negative implication here? Let's see. To condone, placate, or cancel. Make atonement, cleanse, disannul, forgive, be merciful, pacify, pardon, purge, put off, make reconciliation. Let me look at how it's used real quick here on the right-hand side. Where are we? Oh, I don't want to do that. I wonder why it's loading. Feed the children. Oh, that's nice. All right. I need more or less. I need less. There. Well, yeah. Well, whatever. Let's see. At least I got my scroll bar now. I can see it. There we go. See, we get make atonement. Make atonement. Interesting. It's used as make atonement many, many times throughout the law. And then I got 104 occurrences. Yeah, you gotta, and that's the thing is like you wanna, don't get in. That's what, pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. Jesus recommended such. Give to see. I try to whatever I gotta do. I do. I pay my fees, my taxes. My licenses, I try to keep everything in order. I got all the insurance in order. I'm required to have. I got all the stickers and all that garbage I got to have just to get around. It's really hard on the lower class, I can tell you that. Like in Illinois, for every car, it's $150 a year. And it's like, and if you have to run multiple cars because neither of them are particularly reliable, that becomes, that's like, oh, I got to run all these cars. It adds up. Yeah, so anyways. But you got to pacify it. You don't want to get in trouble. Why? I don't want to get in trouble with the powers of the earth. Not for any good, not for any evil reason like that I did something bad. That's, you should fear the king. But when it comes to ultimate truth of right and wrong, when the government starts doing evil things, you got to speak against it. Also, just as the prophets of old did. That's a lot. I've studied the prophets. It's one of my special concerns. I've written more songs out of the prophets than any other part of the Bible. I mean, and if you regard Jesus as a prophet, it's almost exclusively prophets. I mean, there's Moses, and yeah. I mean, because you can look at the whole Bible as a series of prophetic things because it's all prophecy as speaking for God. I mean, Moses was the first. Well, Abraham's also a prophet, so but Moses was a prophet. The Lord will raise up a prophet like unto me. And in Christianity, I think the prophets are multiplied. People don't acknowledge the fact that they're acting as prophets because they're telling you, oh, what is what God's will is, and this. That's why the wise study. All right, so the wrath of the king as messengers of death, but the wise man will pacify it. Not. We don't have to be stupid. In the light of the king's countenance is life. When you have the favor of the king, that's good. And and here's the thing, and the government should shine its favor and its light on the people. I mean, why wouldn't it? In general, certainly. And if it isn't, it should only be for just reasons. I mean, we have lawlessness. And his favor is the cloud of their eye. The thing about kings is they had a lot of power. I'm not, this is true. Among men, this is a major issue and a problem because it's what leads to graft and gifts and, all that patronage, all the power to just, here, you want to, it's like, I'm the president. You want a job? I'm a senator. You want a job? I'm a this. I'm a that. You want this? You want that? You want favor? I got favor for everybody. And yes, the favor of the government is an exceedingly advantageous thing to have. They're playing favorites. It's not such a good thing to be dependent on the government for your life. That's why my king is ultimately Christ. In the light of his countenance, I live and have life. And it is his favor that I look to curry. I don't want to offend men, but if I please God, I shouldn't offend men. And in many ways, I don't. I don't. I only offend those that have wickedly offended heaven. Oh, I'm sure I offend them effectively. Yeah, I'm sure they're quite offended. It's good to do one who is on the path to hell should be made to stumble. So I will give offense. That's another bit of wisdom. Understand? Woe to them by whom offenses shall come. I don't want to be one to be seen to be mocking our Lord, but if you would apply that to that, you'd be wrong. You want to offend the wicked from wickedness. Make them stumble in their going that they feel not come. What do you mean? How dare you say that's not what we should do? How dare I say? What do you mean, how dare I say? How dare you say not? Whatever. I said what I said. Because it's the truth. How much better is it to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding rather to be chosen than silver? Wisdom is better than gold. Understanding than silver. So I say when people are investing in gold for the end times, it's like, you understand, all those gold investments, it's like you have to convert them back to dollars at some point anyways. And even if they say, physical gold, meaning they bought physical gold and they have it in a vault somewhere. What, are you going to hold it? Even if you want to hold gold, there's a level at which it's worthless. What's worth more, gold or food to a starving man? That's why, how much gold will you sell for one more meal when you have none, when you've had none? It's worth so much. It's worth so much. Can you eat wisdom? Oh, yeah, you can. If you have the wisdom to fear God, you can eat. I don't fear starvation because I know that, like the prophet Elijah, the birds will bring me bread. I've always had friends of the birds, even though, well, it's just of them. So how much better is it than wisdom? It's a lot better. I think so. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I wouldn't, all the painful experiences I've had to get wisdom, and sometimes it doesn't not, if you come, sometimes you just have a gift for it from the beginning. I don't know. Oh, some thought I was clever when I was young. I was clever, all right, but I wasn't wise. No. I don't even count myself wise now. I'm a little privy to it, though. Maybe more than some. No, I don't count myself wise, but I count myself covetous of it more than gold. Yes, sir. And of understanding, oh, yes, more than silver. I like collecting those coins that came out with the different backs and stuff. That's fun. But I do it because it amuses me, not because I think it actually has greater value or something like that. There's nothing wrong, But understanding is better than gold, and wisdom. I don't know. How many more ways could we say it? I wish I had more ways. I do have more ways, probably, if I just meditate on it. But let's go on. The highway of the upright is to depart from evil. He that keepeth his way preserveth his soul. This is something I talk about all the time. Look at Christians. This doesn't cease to be true for you just because you have Christ and because, you know that your sins are all paid for and that you could technically sin the rest of your life. And technically speaking, again, like I said, when you start getting to technical, you get into technically, divorce is okay because the law permits it. Technically, you can have multiple wives. Technically. Jesus was very much opposed to those kind of technicalities. He loved mercy rather than stoning a woman, And when it comes to the law of divorce, he said Moses wrote that for the hardness of your hearts. There are technicalities of the law that don't apply to absolute righteousness. Christian righteousness is above that. And it's to depart from every sort of evil to aim at absolute perfection. And there's a model of absolute perfection, which is Christ. Now, within that, in an earthly walk, like I said, some people say, well, he never married. I don't have to be exactly like, well, the thing is, I can never be exactly like him, not until the resurrection. But I can certainly live a life that has a trajectory that is properly oriented. I understand in the resurrection I'm not going to have a wife anymore. I'm not thinking I'm going to have a harem. I'm not like one of those. I'm not even among those who are still so delusional that they think there's going to be piles of donuts and pastries. As some sort, they'll be able to I'll be able to gorge on all this. They shall neither hunger nor thirst because they will be satisfied. You know what I love most is not having to eat. I like if you've ever fasted, if you get to that point where your system is kind of adjusted to it and you still feel good and because you have energy because you're a well-fed American, you haven't been depleting your body you're choosing a healthy path, so you haven't depleted your body. You got vitamins and minerals. You've been eating well, and then you stop, and then your body just kind of settles down and starts taking apart the fat and eating itself and all that. And you can feel quite good. It's good to cleanse and to depart from to do all those things outwardly, inwardly. Because that is the highway of the upright. To depart from every form of evil. To keep your, hey, I don't have to preserve my soul. All I got to do is keep my way is to remember that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I just have to keep to that. I have to keep faith with Christ. That's no problem. I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to quit on Christ. I'm not going to say I don't believe in Jesus anymore. That ship sailed a long time ago. No one will ever persuade me. I suppose they could torture it out of me. I don't know how strong I am. I'm not going to like bravely say. I'll say that ahead of time. They could maybe torture it out of me. I don't know what I could take. I've had some pretty bad pain. One thing I know is when I get really bad pain, I pass out. So I doubt they could get me to deny Christ. I just pass out before they could hurt me too bad. And then they could wake me up and I know it would hurt, but I whatever. And then I'll just have to die or something. I don't know. And like I said, I don't know what I'm sure I could be broken. I've been broken before. The Lord would, I would trust the Lord to preserve me from that because I am faithful. I would never willingly deny him. It's like Peter. I'm not going to sell him off for 30 pieces of silver like Judas, I pray. I don't want my pride to go before destruction, right? And that's why I say those things I do is like I said, I can be broken. Yeah, I depart from evil. I want to keep my way and preserve my soul, but watch out. Pride goes, that's funny thing is every time, my buddy who I know tunes in, many times, I know he keeps an eye on the study. I remember that was one of the things he told me, Paul, it'd be impossible to be upright because you'd become proud. But you could become proud, but you could also be mindful of that. Like I said, we're on the highway of the upright to depart from evil. This is just this is definitely a way of psychologically, orienting yourself. And I do think it's important to constantly affirm those things and to deny sin a place while not being dishonest or hypocritical, but yet at the same time affirming always what we're called to, which is absolutely, which is a path of uprightness, which is what Christ modeled for. He is our King. He is the way. You lay your life down for the truth. And you speak the truth, and your sword is your words. Take up your sword. He that doesn't have one, get one. I like that. I do. I usually thought of that as quite literal, and it may be quite literal actually, because sometimes you do have to have. Like I said, I fear the government, but I don't arm myself against it. Even though I believe in resisting it, peace. Like I believe in like Gandhi type resistance, peaceful like Christ resisted the powers. I resist them just the same way, 100%. That's what I believe in. But but against brigands and crazy individuals, I do have defense. Like I'm surrounded by people, and not unarmed. But I don't like, I don't advise. Like I don't stockpile. I don't stockpile food, which I do think is a mistake. I don't stockpile weapons, which I don't think I can't afford it. I can't afford that. I gotta just absolutely turn off my phone during this time. Come on. No. Don't bother me. Potential spam. Anyways. Okay, so he that keepeth... Oh, let me have a sip of coffee. Anyways. Pride goeth before destruction. Yes, you got to be mindful of that always as you pursue the righteous path. As you want to be a Christian, you want to be a preacher, you want to teach people, you want to do works for God, whatever it is you aspire to do or be in Christ. You got to be mindful of pride. I don't believe I don't have pride. I know how to be humble. I've been humbled on many occasions. I know that. I've been humiliated on many occasions. I felt the humiliation. I think that must be a measure of the pride in me because that burn is, your pride. Honestly, when I was humiliated, I felt my pride flaming. And by just accepting and letting and not lashing out at other people, my pride just kind of evaporates and turns into humility. But when you proudly fail to acknowledge that and you turn that burn into rage at other people and refuse to accept the truth, and that's the pathway to destruction and a fall. Pride goeth before destruction. Maybe not necessarily. And here's the thing. Even as a Christian, like I said, all these things, I don't preserve my soul by my works by any means, except the faith that Christ has given me. But that's his work in me, as far as I'm concerned. I trust in him. I'm saved by grace through faith. That not in myself, but it is the gift of God. So I have no cause for pride at all. Where's boasting? It is excluded. There's no boast. I didn't choose God. He chose me. I wasn't worthy. He didn't choose me because I was worthy. He just chose me because that was his will. He just, I'm not going to try to, I won't justify it because I can't justify it. Not by comparing myself to other people. I mean, maybe he looked at me and liked something about me, whatever. I'm not privy to that. Maybe that's what's written on that white stone. I think I had the white stone explained somewhere, but that was a bit of clickbait anyways. All that stuff was intended to just get people oh, what do you think she knows? And it's like, I say I say that slightly, those things in a bold way because I am giving an explanation, but I don't mean to say ever that I am the explainer or I have all the, well, not for everything, certainly. I don't understand all things. Would to God I did, or would to God I knew someone who did, I would tell you to go listen to them. And there's the Lord, of course, the Spirit of God. He knows and searches all things. You have access to him. So you don't ultimately need me. Though, like I said, I need other people to talk to me and to speak God's word to me all the time. I depend on that. I don't count myself as some, people look at it and they see it online and stuff. And it's like, but I have other Christians with whom I have fellowship, and it isn't just me talking, and it shouldn't just be you listening. Maybe you have some other outlet of your own, or what we have friends, whatever. Find other believers. It's good. It's not good to be alone. Better it is to be of an humble, and that's right in the beginning of Genesis, right? It's not good for man to be alone. Man does not do well alone. Not completely. I've never been alone. I've been somewhat isolated because I've raised my family in a kind of an isolated location. But I've always had family around me and a wide circle of friends. A wide, small circle of friends. Meaning they're not really close friends, but I have friends. I don't have a lot of tight people that I see my buddies all the time, But I do have people I count friends and believers and stuff, and I always cherish my fellowship with them. Better it is to be of a humble spirit with the lowly than to divide the spoil with the proud. Yeah. Because God judges all things, and people, they go in the pride of life and covet after other things. Dividing the spoil, it means, where does the spoil come from? You got to take it from somebody else. Dividing the spoil is a conquering not conquering. It's an element of the conqueror. The conqueror divides the spoil, and then there's the vanquished. In a sense, it's better to be vanquished is what it's saying, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but it's just like Christ's sacrifice. It was better to lay his life down. And that's hard for people to understand. Because they don't understand and believe in the resurrection. And they don't trust in God and understand that there is look at y'all, you're going to die. But you have, I said before you, life and death though. You see life. And God has set in the heart of man eternity. We know we have a desire, and we know the time goes on, that there'll be time after us. There'll be a future where we're not here, because there was a long past before us. And what will be? A lot of people grow weary of the world, I suppose. Maybe, and they even say that some people, maybe it's not something that people wouldn't like living forever. I don't know. It's not that I covet living so much. I have curiosity, which I would love to continue to explore. I don't know. I'm zealous for life, I guess. Sometimes my despair in life comes from that. I'm zealous to do the things in life that I desire most to do. I'm very, earlier this year I bought an alternator. And then it failed. And now it's after a few months, I don't think it's under warranty. It's probably already failed. I don't know if it's under warranty. Problem is, it's from a mail order thing. I'll tell you, you ain't gonna get any Rock Auto sponsorships from me. I've had a lot of dud parts from them, and so I'm not pleased. And so it's like, yeah, I got to do that again. And winter's coming on. I got all this stuff to do. Here we got. Here's a nice. It's a washing machine motor. Gotta get the dryer motor. Actually, gotta get that dryer motor in. You know. There's a lot of things I'd rather be doing. You know. But sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do. You know, and understand that it is that the Lord's work is in the Lord's hands. You know, and the Lord, you know, there are better. You know, I've had better days and worse days. But there's no way. But the main point about showing all that is like I gotta take time to do that. I only have so much time in my life. That burns me up because I have so many things I really want to do. All right, better. That's what was wrong. He that handleth the matter wisely shall find good, and whoso trusteth in the Lord, happy is he. Yeah, you know, and I haven't always handled things wisely, but I found that the inverse is true. That he that handles a matter foolishly finds not so good. Right? Obviously. But these are things, you know, people think they can violate that somehow. Oh, we can go into foolishness. We can just rewrite. Everything's infinitely malleable. That's like the foolishness of the pronoun stuff and all that confusion. I'm not even gonna bring the words that might key everything into it. I just, you know, I don't want to talk about it right now. It is foolishness. You know, yes, and trusting in the Lord, that is the, you know, like I said, faith is not just believing a set of values or something like that, or a story and a set of values, even, or even a reality about the story, that it's real. You know what I mean? Like not just like, you know, nominal faith, or even let's say what may be considered like real faith. Like I believe it's really true, but do you know God enough to truly say you trust him? You know, I don't know. Sometimes we have gifts of faith where people have faith in God, and it's, you know, not everyone is a doubting Thomas like me, which is not something I didn't want to be specifically. So, which is funny. I didn't want to be like that. That's part of, you know, the Lord granted my heart's desire later after I repented of it. I think that was my lips desiring things that, it was sort of, when I asked it when I was a child, I was before the Lord. You know, I didn't ask it in front of church people, or no one provoked me to ask the Lord for wisdom. And I remember reading about Thomas, and I prayed to God. I was just, you know, a kid, and I'm like, I want to be like Thomas. I don't want to be like Thomas. I want to be the people who are blessed from never having seen. You know, I wanted to signal my virtue to God, but I didn't have that virtue, which is funny. I wanted to have that virtue. You know, and on some level, eventually Thomas himself was convinced. So that's good. Like him, I too shall be convinced. I feel like I am. You know, I've already done enough. I did my finger deep enough in the wound to not need to poke it even further. It's good if you trust the Lord. Honestly, the people that trust God most, without all the BS I have to go through, they are some of the happiest people I've ever known. You know, and I can say that is true. It's like most of my misery in my life has always come from my lack of trusting in the Lord. Amen. It's bad. It's not something I laugh about it now because I've, you know, the wise learn, right? What is prudent here in the good old Bible Hub collation of all the greatest study tools you could probably ask for? What is it here? Where trusteth in the Lord, happy is he, wise and sweet, prudent. Where there we go. Sorry. I should note the verse we're on every time that happens. Let's widen that slightly. Okay. To discern is what it says. The quick thing up there's a lot of things there. To a primitive verb, to separate mentally. That's usually the one I would consider as discernment. To distinguish. To be able to understand the difference between up and down, right and wrong. This choice, that choice. Right, left, which way we go at this moment. Discernment. The best path, the right path. And so, yeah. One who knows those, one who has discernment. One who is prudent in their decision making. Prudent, I think the word is a little out of fashion. We always think of George H.W. Bush, the first. Not the first, but, just add that in case you don't H.W. But anyways, he used to be mocked. Maybe go, not very prudent, right? Dana Carvey in the Saturday Night Live. That's a long time ago. So I prefer something like discerning. That's a better word, I think. And the sweetness of the lips increaseth learning. That's interesting. What is the sweetness of the lips there? I wonder if there's a special thing. I see it. Right, here we go. Sweetness. It's a word that means sweetness, which I would think lips. Add and learning. Nothing special there. We're not going to bring up all the definitions. All these words seem to be very unremarkable. Very well translated. So, that's interesting of the idea of, well, I guess that's right? The one who speaks with sweet lips, one who can say words that are, palatable. When you taste something sweet, like a fruit, and the fruit is sweet, you desire it and you want to eat more. And when someone is able to say things that you're, I want more of that. Well, that helps increase learning, of course, right? And that's why it's good to have sweet lips, so to speak, to be able to speak words that enter into the ear like ear candy, so to speak. I don't know if I'm able to do that in any way. I do think I did especially a good job with the reading. I try to do a good job with that. I tried to put all my, when I took the SAT, I got a 36. Not the SAT. I did take that too, but on the ACT, I got a 36 on the reading section. So I'm really good at reading. They told me that since I was young, and I try to do my best for the Lord and to put the most into it. And so that I do think is of, in fact, I want to clip some of them, for especially these Proverbs. I think some of these are really just stand alone as axiomatic truth that can really impact someone's mind. All right. Yeah, the wise in heart shall be called men of discernment, discerning, and the sweetness of the lips increaseth understanding. Because all this is connected because, by when someone is wise, people recognize it. And the way they recognize it is because the things they say cause them to become of greater understanding. People have, you help them understand. That's why I don't consider it like falsely proud or anything. Like I'm being proud or I don't want to be falsely modest either. To say like, oh yeah, I have some wisdom. I don't think it's falsely modest to say I don't feel like I'm filled with it. I still make foolish mistakes. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not so foolish. I feel foolish because at times, it's not about sin so much as, like I said, sometimes in life, I'm not sure if I'm making the right decisions. And because it's not very obvious. And it's like, and there is a wisdom in the world that I seem to be very stupid about and always have been. So, it's probably all right because it's like my wife probably would not have me otherwise. Wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. In some ways, the wisdom which the Lord gave me and the fear he has given me prevents me. Like I have this, it's like being, You know, they have pre-bunking now, where they pre-bunk what you have to say, where before you get to say it, they censor you or whatever. I don't know. Seems kind of silly. But it's kind of like that. Oh, wait a second. Yeah. Anyways. We're starting. Okay, wait. That threw me off because there was double references to lips. I still have that there. Okay. Yeah, so so you have to have a little bit of balance and understand. It's like even the wise don't. There's like the children of this world are often wiser in their generations than the children of light. There are some things about, if your conscience is preloaded. What I mean is like there are certain ideas and things that I find reprehensible even when they're suggested to me. They're so repulsive because of what I already believe. That's what I meant by pre-bunked. It's like there are certain areas, that are just settled. Like, we know murder's wrong. There's many things that are wrong. That's not to say that, men die and men are killed in their foolishness. And that often happens. But that's not the same thing as a man laying in wait for blood. Anyways. Understanding is a wellspring of life to them that hath it. Right? That's better than, so the king is not a well of life, but what is he? The king's countenance is life. In the light of the king's countenance is life. Not untrue. And, I think in our country we try to just let the light of the Lord shine and that men would rule themselves, much as God intended in Israel when they had no king. But we had some sort of form of government. And the president would not be a king, though he's become more. The presidency has taken on more powers than were originally given it. Mostly because the Congress has shifted more power over there. It's not like they just took it entirely. Anyways. But understanding. Not just any old understanding, but the understanding of truth. And I mean the truth of life. Not truth, not mechanical truth about how things turn over and roll around and things grow and things die. Understanding about what it is God would have of men. And understanding that will lead you to life. Fear God. But instruction, because fools will not, they always say, oh, don't fear God, just do this. It's so much easier, so much faster. The dark side. It is easier and faster in some ways, but the ways thereof are death. The heart of the wise teaches his mouth and addeth learning to his lips. Yeah, just because you got, and that's good. That's what ought to be. I always, as I read that, I sense almost like I said, like the king ones, it's like a qualification. You know what I mean? Like just because someone is regarded as wise, if they say stupid things, they may not be so wise after all. If they're so learned, well, maybe their heart will teach their mouth what to say, so they can sound like they know what they're talking about. And maybe their heart will teach, they'll add that learning that they got up in there and they got on the piece of paper that says they have a degree. Maybe all that learning will actually wind up in something that comes out of their mouth. I think a lot of the medical professionals I've been hearing from for the past 3 years, would to God they could teach their mouth the wisdom that their brains supposedly possess. And would to God the learning of just the basics of infectious disease had been on their lips. Instead, they give themselves over to insanity and groupthink and all this mass. They went along with mass psychosis. Said the word. Well, people often do, don't they? Pleasant words are as an honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones. Again, pleasant words, yeah. Even, it's good to hear good things. you know, I try not to, allow myself, because the thing is, you listen to too much praise, and you hear too many positive things. I've always had a natural revulsion to those things because I do sense in myself, like I said, I'm not without pride. I keep myself under, I keep myself down. I don't allow myself to think high thoughts. Because if you want to, because that's a way of death. And I don't believe those things. He that will be great among you must be the servant. So you got to serve. That's why I do not allow. I try not to let people serve me. It's sort of my way of, because I indeed do want to please the Lord. I don't want to just flatter myself. Now, but pleasant words that are true. Because sometimes people will say, because like I said, I took that immediately in a negative sense, though of course that's not what it means. But I wanted to take you down that path to understand. There is the other side. Flattery may seem pleasant. It may seem like a honeycomb. It may seem sweet to the soul. But the health that it gives to the bones winds up in rottenness because it's lies. But pleasant words, if I think more in terms, and let me see what the quick definition is. It's a word, it says delightfulness or pleasantness, delightful words, good words. Or as in honeycomb, like a sweet thing. I've never had a honeycomb. I've often looked at honeycomb in the store. It's really expensive, like a jar with honeycomb in it is like $8. And I thought about getting it, but I'm like, I can't afford that. But I always wanted to try it just to see. Sorry about the belching there. So just to see what it's like, because it says so in the Bible. It's as in honeycomb. I've had honey, which is very nice, and I like especially the unrefined honey. There was a difference. We get this really nice stuff. I've never had it with the honeycomb, and that'd be really interesting. Just to see how pleasant it is to just bite into a natural one. I would like to try that sometime. I probably will someday because it's like maybe I won't always be in the budgetary constraints I usually am. But so without firsthand knowledge, I assume it's like something because I do think honey, like especially the really fresh kind, not the kind out of the little bear, but the kind you get that's like, I forgot what it is. It's like unpasteurized, unrefined, or whatever. It tastes a little more alive and fresh, a little less like it's been heated and made uniform or whatever. It doesn't have the honeycomb, but it's the honey basically direct from it. And it tastes really nice. I mean, I really like that drizzled on some bread. I don't usually have it, though, to tell you the truth. I don't get honey very often. My wife uses it to sweeten certain things a little bit. We don't, she doesn't use a lot of sugar. But I always think that honey flavor is such a natural, sweet, just like a fig, a fresh fig. That is probably much less common. Most people, I didn't taste a fresh fig till a couple years ago. And I've got a little fig tree I'm trying to cultivate. But that sweetness, like I said, it is just like the other thing. It's you want more of it, right? The sweetness of the lips, the words that are pleasant, they're sweet to the soul, health to the bones. And that means when I take is that delightful in the sense of that it's actually good, like useful words that actually promote, things that make you do better, that make you have a better walk with the Lord, that make your life go better, at least in that most important way. Because like I said, if you're walking uprightly with the Lord, well then anything that's going on is not because of that, Because I'll tell you what, even though you're saved, the Lord may want to get your attention about some sin in your life because he doesn't like his representatives, like going around smiting their fellow servants and eating and drinking with the drunken, quite frankly. That's not what he wants you to do. He made it quite clear that that's like if that servant shall start doing those things, his Lord may come for him in an hour which he does not look for him, which is a metaphor of very bad outcomes. Like I said, there's a lot of people in the church, at least according to the New Testament, that not a lot, but there's a number of people. There's certainly a number of people in the church that are there for no good purpose at all, other than to manifest, the evil. They are to manifest evil in the midst of the house of God, and they are there for that purpose, and for that they that may be approved may be made manifest, as is written also in the New Testament. Okay, very famous verse 16:25 right there is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but at the end thereof are the ways of death. People think it seems right, or there's a way that seems right. Oh, I can do this, I can do that. And you see, I see extreme examples of it in people who just literally end up killing people and end up ruining their lives, and or in prison, and I don't know how many people get executed anymore, but I always, like I said, some people certainly deserve it. I'm only opposed to the death penalty in that I don't believe our justice system carries out justice anymore. And but if it could be, I don't know if I trust men to that level anymore. Whatever. And as long as they have the choice, if they bear not the sword in vain, and if I want to blunt it, I'll blunt it because I don't trust them with it. And I'm glad that it's blunted. I'd much rather go to prison than be wrongfully executed. Surely. So, that's how I feel. But sometimes people think, I got to do this, I got to do that. And it just seems like the thing they got to do. It seems like the right thing for them or for their needs. And it's, that's where often it is. They're thinking of only themselves, selfishly, covetously, wickedly. It seems right to him in his mind. And the whole world is filled with this. Try to tell people they need to walk the ways of righteousness. They're like, no, we're going to go and be fornicators. Young ladies should go, try out all kinds of different guys. See who's compatible with them. Just try out, I guess it's like, if you got, it sounds pretty, whatever. I'm not going to go into analogies. It's disgusting. But that's a prime example. Fornicators, adulterers, liars. So a lot of people get ahead in this world by lying to the public. A lot of people get paid to lie on TV. Hired liars. Boy, if anything was ever ripe for the flames of hell, it's a hired liar. You get paid to lie on TV, you better repent now, soon, before the Lord comes. And don't think a little cross on your neck or something is going to protect you from the flames that come out of those eyes. Because he pierces and sees all. I don't judge anybody, but I tell you, the Lord judges. You liars. You continue in your lies, and you will be consumed in them. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Is that controversial? I don't think so. He that laboreth for himself, for his mouth craveth it of him. He that works because he has to. He's got a mouth to feed. His mouth tells him he's got to do it. And that's if you got a family, just multiply that, because that's not less for myself. They are my flesh and my blood. It's like all I ever do is work for myself. I don't count it like I do this for you. I definitely don't lay that kind of crummy burden on my children. I've always tried to be, not tried. I've never laid. I don't lay garbage on them like that. I don't like that kind of. I despise manipulativeness, and I've always tried to raise them in righteousness, but otherwise, but in with a lot of freedom. And not with a lot of intrusion. I try not to be intrusive on their lives any more than accept that I'm their father. I mean, it's right. I demand obedience. I demand respect. And I have it, And then I'm, try to be, like if you're a good king, the people will they will, and I'm not great. I'm not perfect, please. It's like maybe like Solomon in my, not quite like Solomon, but in Solomon in his old age, one of the wisest fell into what can only be described as foolishness with false gods because of the women. And I'm not saying I'm going to be like that. I'm just mean like I can be foolish. I've been foolish. So I know I can do it again. Not until the Lord, shows me otherwise. Not until the Lord changes. Because a lot of it is just bound up in my flesh. I can see it. It's like I grow wiser and I do better. But there's like this, just like Paul said, the messenger of Satan, the thorn in your flesh. And it is maybe even the flesh itself. I don't know. But it's like, I think it's every thorn in the flesh, everything in the flesh that stings you. And that causes any of that, I guess. Or maybe for him it was just some sort of physical condition. I want to accuse Paul of sin, but hey. I don't like to accuse anybody. I just talk about sin as when someone does. If someone does something publicly, it's not like I'm accusing them. It's like I said about Fauci the other day. The guy changed his tune twice. So it's like, hey, obviously he was lying at least once. The only other possibility is he was lying twice. You know what I mean? Like that never, any of it was the truth. No, those things are an either or proposition. Well, there's a third way, I suppose. There's like a more perfectly honest way where we could discuss that kind of thing, is like for what they actually are worth. As far as like some masks are very good at, like, if you don't want to get bacteria on things, you want to avoid if you're certain things, like spittle and yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind if someone like working over my Subway sandwich wasn't like, I didn't like having to. I mean, whatever. I wore the gloves. I washed my hands. Actually, back when I worked at Subway, we washed our hands. We didn't use gloves. We washed them right in front of the people with soap and water. Which is interesting. They don't do that anymore. So, an ungodly man diggeth up evil, and in his lips there is a burning fire. Like he goes into this effort to find evil. He's like digging it up. Like he diggeth up evil. I love that metaphor. I mean, it's like, we have the idea of like dig up some dirt on that guy. I don't know if that comes from this, but it's very interesting, right? An ungodly man diggeth up evil. Now, not necessarily dig up some dirt if it's, well, it has to do with buried, right? The idea of things that are buried bodies, skeletons in the closet type thing. And so in a certain sense, well, like it, a man might find out evil. And I don't really think that this is what this is saying. This metaphor is more in the sense of like treasure. He goes looking for it and he uncovers it like evil devices. But I wonder if too bad it isn't evil devices specifically. I'm going to look real quick here. It is Ra, which is, yeah, if you think about it, evil as adversity. That's probably the best way to understand this verse. He goes out, he goes out ungodly, right? And he doesn't know what he's looking for in life, right? Because he isn't searching for God, right? So he goes digging in the earth, questing for the truth, right? Just like they do. They want to know what's going on. So we dig out in the earth and we find out. I've always been very fascinated by geology and archaeology and all that stuff. It's always like the kind of thing that draws my attention, as far as like I don't talk about it much because I always have a lot of openness to all the possibilities. It's more a subject that fascinates me than I feel like I have a position about. Well, I do have a sort of a position about, but Nothing I gotta say here. But as they go out to seek things like that, because I'm minded of that thing where it says, the word, where is the word of God? Is it up in heaven? Is it down below? Who shall descend into the depths beneath? Which is to say, bring up Christ from the dead. And it's a very kind of an obscure passage as far as it's not always obvious to me. It wasn't obvious to me like exactly what he meant, though I take a lot of meaning from it. You know what I mean? And so, same thing here. They go, who shall descend into the depths? Well, they go descending into the depths, and what do they find? Adversity, trouble, because they're ungodly. Obviously. In all their digging and excavating, and I don't mean the archaeologists specifically, they're fine. I don't mean that literally. I just mean when someone ungodly in their life's pursuits, especially where that ungodliness intersects with what they're doing. You know what I mean? Meaning the ungodly man, goes and finds a prostitute and gets crabs or something, and whatever. He digs up problems for himself through his ungodliness. He goes and holds up a liquor store and he ends up in prison or killed, And in his lips, there is as a burning fire. Yeah, because the suggestions of the ungodly, let's go fornicate, let's go steal, let's go murder. There's destruction and fire. It's as a burning fire as it is destructive and consuming. Burning fire is a metaphor of the Lord's word and of the words of the wicked. The Lord's in the different. What is the difference? Well, I suppose because the Lord's righteous word is a burning fire against the wicked. When the wicked's burning fire is against all that is good. And there's different things being burned here. Imagine if it was so that there was different kinds of fire. A fire that could burn only that which is good, and a fire that could burn only that which is bad. That's almost like, if there were substances and fires as such in the world, if you could conceive of such a thing. That's the sort of idea. Yes, there's the lips of the prophets of God. As it says in, Jeremiah 23:29. I'm looking at I looked over there right at the head of my website, the header, because I could read it right there. Jeremiah 23:29. Is not my word like as a fire and like a hammer that breaketh a rock in pieces? The Lord's word is a fire. The Lord's word is as a fire. Okay, so ungodly man diggeth his lips there is as a burning fire. Okay, we're done. Yeah, we'll just leave it right there. Let's see, how many more verses we have for tomorrow? I just want to wrap up by looking at that. Yeah, so we'll read these and then we'll go into chapter 17. Maybe read the whole thing. Why not? It's not even that long. Yeah, okay, so wait, no, I put the enter at the wrong position. There we go. Okay, so we'll be picking up at verse 28 tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get a study in early tomorrow and wrap up the week with a study every day. I like to get all 5 in. I sometimes miss that one, and I'm always disappointed that I can't get it in, but Lord willing, we will. And I will put the effort in to not just, like I said, the Lord is always willing, but we got to put in, I want to participate in this thing. I don't see why I shouldn't push it. Because that seems to be what Jesus says, hey, why wouldn't I be pushy about it? I'm just going to sit around and wait for God to, he called me already. What am I going to wait now? Well, what next, Lord? I'll just wait here for you to tell me what to do. It's like, I know what to do. Or he gave me a whole big book and I studied it. Okay, so now I know. Anyways, remember the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And until next time.
For the Lord spake thus to me with a strong hand, and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people. Say ye not a confederacy to all them to whom this people shall say, a confederacy, neither fear ye their fear, nor be afraid. Sanctify the Lord of hosts himself, and let him be your fear, let him be your dread, and he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling, for a rock of offense.